We are about 25% of the way through the season, entering week 8 of fantasy hockey. It's been such an exciting first little bit of hockey so far, and hopefully your teams are performing the way you've hoped when you drafted them. In this video, I'm going to give you 8 of my favorite players that you need to add before week 8. The mustache is looking good, and hopefully the players in this video will be even better. My name's Mike, and let's jump into the video. Lucas Raymond is the first must-have player for this video at just 46% rostered over on Yahoo. He's likely available in those 10 to 12 team leagues. He's currently skating line 1, power play 1, and playing over 18 minutes per night since moving up to this role. And that's been the big thing with Raymond throughout his career in this entire season is where his deployment is going to be. He's been on the third line, he's been power play 2, but what we want to see from him and where his value is the highest is when he's skating on the top line with Larkin and DeBrincat and skating on that top power play unit. You have to think this is his third full NHL season. He still hasn't surpassed that first year production that we saw where he was contending for Rookie of the Year, but maybe this is finally the time the Red Wings are giving him a chance to finally break out in this role where he's playing line 1, power play 1. Throughout the season, 17 games played, 7 goals, 13 points, 37 shots on goal, and 12 hits. But in that span, he has just 2 power play points. So his 5-on-5 numbers have been extremely good, 11 5-on-5 points in 17 games. Hopefully now with him playing power play 1, the production should only go up. I know there are a lot of games tonight and it's currently 4-0 Red Wings, and Raymond does have a goal. So hopefully the stat line looks pretty good tonight, but the roster percentage still stays under 50%. The Red Wings this season have been a very good offensive team. They have the 13th most efficient power play in the league and the 8th best goal rate in the entire NHL. It seems like every night these games that the Red Wings are in are super high scoring and super high event, and you want to be targeting teams that play in those high event games. Right now for Raymond this season, he's at a career high 7.7 shots per 60, 71.50 on ice Corsi 4 per 60, and a 4.0 on ice goals 4 per 60. Very, very elite numbers, especially the on ice numbers for Lucas Raymond right now. And we know because the Wings high firing offense and their high event games that these numbers are inflated, but hopefully they stay inflated and Raymond can sustain this really strong production. Up next we have Eeli Tolvanen. Quite a few people have been talking about him in the Discord, and I do own him in one of my big leagues, which is a full categories league with PIMs, blocks, hits, shots. He's been extremely good for me, and hopefully you got to him before he was rostered. He's 42% roster now, which has gone up quite a bit over the last 2 weeks. But this is a resurgence season for a guy that was a former first-round pick in the NHL and then was waived by Nashville and a team that could really use him right now. But the Seattle Kraken picked him up. And like similar to Vegas, they're a team that just rolls their 4 lines, and Tolvanen has been a beneficiary of this. In November, he's been very good, 8 points, 23 shots on goal, 16 hits, and 13 blocks. He's pretty much like a defenseman on forward, but with solid point upside. He is one of the highest shot blocking forwards in the entire NHL. And right now, he's playing a career high in minutes, just under 16 minutes per night, with it's scaling a little bit higher over the last 10 games, but he's also skating on the top power play unit. And in Seattle, their power play isn't as strong as most teams, and they are a team that kind of plays like a 1 minute and 10-second power play 1 and a 50-second power play 2. But still, the opportunity for him to be skating on the top power play unit is something you really can't pass up. But right now this season, he has just 3 goals and his shooting percentage is way down from his career high, and he's still been very good. So hopefully this shooting percentage starts to go up again and we see Tolvanen pot goals like we saw last year when he scored 16 with Seattle. And that's a great segue to my next point, where his career in Seattle so far, 68 games played, 19 goals, 39 points, 137 shots, and 109 blocks. That almost elusive 200-100 hit shot to hit ratio that we look for in a lot of players. But he also adds a very elite block rate. The minutes are low. If we start to see the minutes go up to 18 plus per night, Tolvanen will be an extremely strong and extremely productive player for you in fantasy. This season, he's one of just 2 players with 7 plus shots per 60, 7 plus hits per 60, and 4 plus blocks per 60, giving him huge long-term upside, given this really defines what his floor is going to be as a player, and the points will come with the shot volume and with the offensive production, especially skating on that top power play unit. A lot to like here from Tolvanen. He's definitely someone you want to be rostering in those 12 plus team leagues. We are back on the Sam Bennett train. I'm just going to keep talking about him until we see that roster percentage finally go back to what it should be. But with Alexander Barkov now day to day after a pretty scary knee on knee, at the time of recording, just 36% of you are subscribed to the channel. So if you've enjoyed the content so far, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all the content that we're going to be pumping out for the rest of the season. In addition, we have updated our projections for the rest of the season. If you're interested in gaining access to that, head on over to our Patreon. The link will be in the description. If you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment in this video or simply message me on Discord. Let's jump back into the video, guys. He may go on the IR. There's really no news on the status of Barkov, but they did say he avoided a very major injury. That's good for Barkov owners. I do own him in one of my biggest league right now. But with Sam Bennett here, he has now moved up. He's still playing second line, but the minutes are beginning to go up. He's starting to play over 17 minutes per night, which is what we want to see from a guy who is so productive on a per 60 basis. Last season, he was one of just 3 players with 10 plus shots per 60 and 8 plus hits per 60. The other 2 players, Brady Tkachuk, who's a top 10 player in bangers, and Evander Kane, who is another top 10 player in bangers. So with Sam Bennett here, he is in elite company in terms of the shot and hit volume. It's just a matter of him being healthy and playing the minutes that we want to see. He's skating line 2 with Matt Tkachuk, someone who's been extremely unlucky this season. Right now, as the time of recording, I think he's at 3 goals and 79 shots for Tkachuk. So hopefully this begins to turn around. Sam Bennett will be a beneficiary of that because he does skate on the same line as him. With Bennett as well, he's power play 2. I was really curious to see what happens when Barkov went down with injury, who would fill the spot. It looks like it's going to be Oliver Ekman-Larsson right now, but if Bennett does go on the top power play unit, this will be extremely good. He was on the top power play unit, and the reason why I liked him so much going into this season, he was on the top power play unit last year throughout the entire playoffs. But right now, Bennett, a pretty slow start since coming back from injury, but he really just hasn't got his feet under him yet. And we're starting to finally see Bennett be that elite shot and hit volume player. Like in the last 3 games, 8 shots, 7 hits. And I expect this production moving forward. With Montour and Ekblad finally healthy, this team becomes the elite team that we saw make a long playoff run last season. They're one of the top shot volume teams that we've ever seen in the NHL, and Sam Bennett is a player that just fits perfectly in this super highly dynamic system. There's a YouTuber called Hockey Psychology, and he breaks down Jonathan Huberdeau and how he doesn't fit in the Calgary Flames system and how players benefit in the Florida Panthers system. I can't explain it too well here, but definitely go over and watch that video. I'll leave the link in the description, and it really breaks down on why these Florida Panthers players flourish under this system. So I love Bennett here. He's just 16% rostered. He should be owned in all 12 plus team leagues, especially if you have hits in your leagues. This roster percentage is eventually going to get up to 30 to 40% within the next 2 weeks if he can stay healthy. Has anyone else found that defense are really not hard to come by this season? Like, it's difficult for me to recommend defensemen because there's just so many good ones, but you're likely owning all of them right now. With Torey Krug here, he is one of the lowest rostered power play 1 defenseman, and he's been very solid over the last 10 games. Now, the St. Louis Blues power play is not strong. They're actually the 3rd worst power play in the entire NHL. But with Torey Krug here, what we're seeing is an increased shot rate and increased block rate from his career averages, and I'm hoping he can sustain this moving forward. He's skating solid minutes, 22 plus per night, which is what you want to see with any defenseman that you own, but he's also playing in very good minutes. Pair 2, power play 1, and over the last 10 games, he has a top 5 shot rate amongst all defensemen, just over 7 shots per 60, and also in that time, the small defenseman in Torey Krug was also putting his body in front of pucks. He's blocking 1.7 blocks per game, way above his career average, and that just adds to his floor where you want to be taking defensemen that play good minutes and have solid peripherals, because each and every night they're going to be getting you points and not putting up bagels. So with Torey Krug, a very, very slow October. 7 games played, 0 points, 9 shots, and a -1. Flip over to November, 10 games played, 6 points, 26 shots on goal, and he's a +5. He's also added 14 blocks in that time. So very, very strong numbers from Krug in November. I'm hoping that the October is behind him and he can, looking forward, be a much better offensive defenseman like we've seen in the past. He's super low owned for a power play 1 defenseman. In those 12 to 14 plus team leagues, in the competitive leagues, he should be available in the free agency. And if you're lacking defenseman, this is definitely a guy you want to be trying to roster. extremely interesting for what we're seeing by some of these Calgary Flames prospects, and I don't want to get too excited because I was super excited about Matt Coronado, then I was excited about Connor Zary, but now we're seeing Martin Pospisil, who has been extremely good, especially in the peripheral categories, on a Flames team that desperately needs offense. Very intriguing player, 8 games since being called up, 3 goals, 5 points, 23 shots on goal, and 24 hits, while playing 13 minutes and 19 seconds per night. But the big question is this sustainable? We were talking about it in the Discord today. He's averaging around 3 shots and 3 hits per game, which would put him in like Vincent Trocheck company, and that would probably make him a top 100 player. But the big thing is when he begins to play more minutes in a more elevated role, can he sustain these unbelievable peripherals like we've seen in the early going? He's currently the only player in the entire NHL with 12 plus shots per 60 and 10 plus hits per 60. So if he can sustain this production long term, he could be a poor man's Brady Tkachuk that will get you 150, 200 shots and 150 to 200 hits. I'm sorry, Canuck in the Discord. I know I dissed you a little bit on this today, but the more I looked into it, the more I liked what we're seeing from him. He's currently skating line 3, and the reason why I have an asterisk there is because they like to just spread out their lines. He is skating with Nazem Kadri, a guy I really like long term, and he's also skating on the top power play unit. So we don't know how things will stick in the Calgary Flames system. They really like to shuffle things around. That's probably why they're not successful. And they also play a very boring game. But over the last 2 games, he's played over 17 minutes per night. So if we continue to see these big minutes in a very strong role moving forward, he becomes an extremely intriguing player in 12 plus team leagues. But for right now, in the 14 plus team leagues, this is definitely a guy you want to be rostering and take a shot on just in case he has a breakout like we're seeing throughout his first 8 games. I honestly can't believe I'm recommending Joey Daccord at this point in the season, but I'm sure everybody else is in the same boat with how big of a mystery goaltenders have been this season. I was doing some research and it looks like Cam Talbot does have the best save percentage and goals against average in the entire NHL, which no one could predict, but I did have him in the must-own goalies, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of a pat on the back for that one. But with Joey Daccord right now, it's just a starting goalie. There's not many goalies I want to be recommending, and myself and the rest of the FP guys have discussed we should probably stop giving goalie advice because we literally have no idea what's going to happen moving forward. Vitek Vanacek already given up 4 goals in the first period against the Detroit Red Wings, and Stuart Skinner 5 goals through 2 periods against the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm recording this on Thursday night. It's pretty crazy what we're seeing with goalies right now, but with Joey Daccord, you're just getting a guy that's going to be a starting goalie on a top 15 team in the NHL. So far this season, a 901 save percentage, a crazy 2-2-5 record. He has 5 overtime losses. If he even converted half of that to wins, the record would be a lot better. But he ranks 23rd for save percentage right now and 21st for goals against average. He's been a little bit better than Grubauer. I like the volume that you're going to get out of him moving forward with Grubauer injured. So with Joey Daccord, he's an ad right now as long as he's the starting goalie in the Seattle Kraken. Again, goalies are a huge mystery. They've been almost impossible to predict this season. Even the best goalies haven't been good. So with Daccord, if you're looking to stream a goalie for the next couple weeks to give you some solid volume, if you punt in the goaltending categories like I do every single year, this is probably a guy you want to be taking a look at. Everybody right now, if you skipped this part, you're probably thinking, who? Beck Malenstyn? Who is Beck Malenstyn? And I was wondering the same thing until I did research tonight on some of these advanced stats and some of these per 60 rates of players. But in these really deep leagues, like if you can play in 16 to 20 plus team leagues, I'm sure there's a very niche audience for Beck Malenstyn. If you're in 12 to 14 plus team leagues or anything smaller than 14 team leagues, you can just skip ahead to the next player. But with Beck Malenstyn here, he has been weirdly good offensively and weirdly good on his per 60 rates. A 7.36 shots per 60 ranks him 182 amongst all players. 11.2 hits per 60 ranks him 27th amongst all forwards, and a 6.72 blocks per 60 is the second best block rate amongst all forwards in the NHL right now. Through 15 games, he has 3 points, 23 shots on goal, 35 hits, and 23 blocks. He's very similar to Pospisil on the Calgary Flames, where he just came up a super random player and he has extremely strong peripherals. Now, I don't know if he's going to sustain this, but in his last game, he almost played 20 minutes, and that's what you want to be seeing from players that have this good of per 60 rates. Can they convert these rates when playing more minutes? Over his last 5 games, he's skating 15 plus minutes per night. If you want to take a stab at a guy in a super deep league, 16 plus teams, Beck Malenstyn is extremely intriguing moving forward. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. He's almost like last year's Raphael Harvey-Pinard in the Montreal Canadiens, who was an extremely strong shot, block, and hit player out of nowhere. So take a look at Beck Malenstyn in those deeper leagues. Let me know what you think about him. If anyone owns him right now, I'm very curious to how you found him and why you own him. Logan Cooley is the next player for this video, with news that Barrett Hayton, the player who plays 20 plus minutes per night and puts up 0 points, is now out 4 to 6 weeks. It's finally Logan Cooley season. The 2022 third overall pick has huge upside and has been extremely good over the last 10 games. He's now skating line 1, power play 1, and should be playing over 16 minutes per night, maybe into the 18 plus range. Now there's a player like Barrett Hayton who played big minutes that's not going to be in the lineup for the next 4 to 6 weeks. In October for Cooley, he's a rookie, so you have to remember that part of it. 0 goals, 6 points, and 8 shots, just 1 shot per game. But in November, 10 games played, 2 goals, 6 points, and 21 shots on goal. With rookies, you just have to be patient when you draft them. Same thing with Adam Fantilli, and the same thing with Connor Bedard, is they're only going to get better over time, and that's what we're seeing with Cooley. Arizona this season has the 6th most efficient power play and the 18th best goal rate in the entire NHL. So very good offensive numbers, especially from compared to what we saw last season. With Cooley here, hopefully the opportunity on the power play can give him the boost of confidence that he needs to become that elite player in the NHL. You have to remember that he's still young, but the roster percentage at just 31% gives you the opportunity to acquire a young rookie that has the potential to be a very strong player for the rest of the season. Logan Cooley at this point is a must add. We'll keep an eye on Barrett Hayton's status moving forward, but for the 4 to 6 weeks gives Cooley enough time to really find his footing in a top line power play 1 role. That will do it for the Week 8 Must-Add Players video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.